What's up, guys? We're back. This is what I think episode 9-ish. Yeah, I want to say 9. Whatever number comes after 8, right? Welcome back. This is again Bottle Banter with the Booze Nest. Today we have an amazing guest joining us as well. But I do want to take some time before introducing them to mention again, because we saw it happen a few times last week still. If you go on to StreamYard.com backslash Facebook and allow Facebook access to your account, that way you can actually show up as your name, like I believe Adam just did. Thank you, Adam, for doing that. Instead of showing up like a Facebook user. So without further ado, let's bring in our guests. Michael Blagica, Bottles Nation, welcome. Thank you guys for joining.
Hey, Boston, what's up?
Hey there.
What's going on? Happy Friday.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Happy Friday.
Really.
Cheers. We definitely have to ask, what's in the glass?
I'll start ladies first.
Yeah,
So,
ladies first.
you know what? When it comes to bourbon, I love different kinds of bourbons, but I just love my bullet bourbon. So just having straight up basic with one big old massive cube. Delicious.
There you go. Michael, how are you?
I'm having the J. Henry 5-year Wisconsin bourbon. This one's made out of 51% heirloom red corn.
I was actually about to ask you if you knew the mash bill, so that's cool.
Yeah, this one is. This is the first time I'm tasting it. It was on a recommendation of one of my sommelier friends, and bottoms up.
Very nice. So obviously, we kind of got into a few conversations in the past, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, of course, your first love was wine to an extent, or did it start somewhere else?
I think it more started with everything. It just I was so right after I came back. So I enlisted in the service. I came back and went into bartending for about 6 or 7 years while I was going through college. I immediately wanted to stay in the bar restaurant industry. So centered in on wine. I'm a history major. So that's the one beverage that really intrigued me. The history is really vast. So I just stayed with that. Got some certifications, became a sommelier, and started my own company in 2009.
So now that you mentioned it, tell us about.
So quick time out. I have to mention something that's quite hilarious. So he mentions history. It mentions his wine classes and whatnot. When we were dating, he was getting certified within his world of being a wine guy and being a sommelier. And I would come home and there'd be these index cards of wine regions and dirt all over the apartment. And I knew that he loved wine, but didn't realize how much he was able to pick up on regions, and just it was like a thing with him. And so we quickly realized, okay, this isn't just a hobby, it's you actually know this stuff. He's also a White Sox fan, that's okay. And I just equate it to knowing he knows wine like baseball. It's just he talks about wine like a baseball lineup. That's the best way that I can describe it.
So does wine or the White Sox also transition to the Blackhawks?
Yes, it does, and that's okay. He is a Chicago boy, and I'm a Detroit girl, and I've never defected into sports teams ever. And we have a beautiful rivalry going amongst the marriage, and our children have also been designated when they were born as to what sports they're allowed to like. So.
Or sports teams.
Sports teams. So we have a nice church and state in terms of sports for each one.
Yeah. So now that we know, Michael, you're a Blackhawks fan, thank you for joining. I'm just kidding.
Hey, we're not even in the same conference anymore.
Yeah, it's okay. I gotta give you a hard time.
I like the rivalry. I miss it,
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we see each other in the Stanley Cup soon enough, right?
I know.
Now that's something else, because now they can actually face each other in a Stanley Cup, so that's pretty cool.
And we're definitely gonna have to place a wager together when that happens as well. But we'll talk about that on a different day. So you mentioned the company. Where did the idea of Bottle Nations actually come from?
Yeah, so this had some pretty humble beginnings. I was a sommelier at the Intercontinental Hotel on Michigan Avenue in Chicago, and I would come home with these stories of me just laying down layman's terms for people. I'm a South Side blue collar kind of guy. So I have a way of explaining, or South-splaining, I should say, because I'm such a Southsider. And my wife, she just said, "You're kind of like a novelty item. You know, you're just that kind of guy who everyday guy who relates to the everyman. But yet you talk about all of this wine. Why don't you start a blog?" So I ended up starting.
Which he hated.
Hated everything. She dragged me along, kicking and screaming.
He thought, wait, Ty, this is too good. This is too good. He thought Twitter was dumb, Facebook, Instagram. I work in digital marketing and technology, so he's like the wine guy, I'm like the nerd. And I said, you really should just get on social, post. He resisted in the beginning every step of the way, and he does admit to it, but that's once he started getting to it, and this is a case study for anybody, he was consistent, he fought it tooth and nail, but then that's how things grew. And then the next thing you know, wine samples were coming to the house. People would go to work to go to where he worked at the Intercontinental Hotel and ask for the Windy City wine guy. And that was his moniker. And people would start showing up like, is the Windy City wine guy here? And he's like, hi. And it was just funny at first. But then people started asking about private events, and they started asking about, can he do more wine things? And that's kind of when he broke out on his own and formally, for a decade, ran it.
Yeah, it took quite a while. I mean, I started off with a Rolodex like this, and then doing an event or two, maybe all month long.
Yeah.
It was quite a buildup, but I just kept at the grind. I kept going and going, letting time take its place, letting the word of mouth get out there. Before it started to get to the point to where I was with these large companies who would see me in Chicago, and they said, "Hey, can you come out to DC? We'll fly you out there. Can you come out to Seattle? Can you go to Phoenix?" So I ended up doing all of that, and then finally we were just getting to the point to where it was getting bigger than just Windy City. So I needed a different name. We were in Miami.
Yeah. So Bottles Nation was born in Miami.
It was born in
Miami. Thank you, Miami.
Yeah, love Miami. So we were just talking about it, and I said we got to change the name.
Yep.
And
also, what was happening at the time, private companies and private people were coming to him for events and whatnot, but we were getting requests from like larger agencies and PR folks and brands to do more types of brand activations, and so that's where my background comes in.
Not just events.
Yeah, it was like helping amplify a message or a campaign or activity. And I think, he was also on the Steve Harvey show. So once more brand people and corporations saw that type of background, then I got more involved from a marketing and PR standpoint. And so when Bottles Nation formed, it was a combination of still the events that he was rocking and doing, but then we were formally doing more engagement with companies and brands to help their campaigns. So if a bottle was launching or they needed amplification on social or paid social media, we took that on for them. And this was, of course, pre-pandemic, and then you can kind of take it from there.
Yeah, so once the pandemic hit, I had clients lined up for this year, and I was just like everybody else, to where all my clients were contacting me, either canceling or saying, "Hey, we got to postpone this until this pandemic is over." So I was at a loss. I'm like, what am I going to do next? We had conferred about it. Blagica brought up the idea of virtual. I'm like, well, maybe this is something we should do. So we ended up starting that version up. Got like 5 events in April.
In March. No, 5 was in March.
5, or no, it wasn't April. Or no,
we had 5 in March.
5 in March, okay. And then it just kind of grew from there to where, wow, the kids were home from.
We had 2 kids. We also had 2 children.
The kids were home from school. I was sitting there watching them, and then finally I'm doing like 40, 50 events per month. It was just madness. Billing, contracts, and I was doing all the events myself as well, hosting every single one of them. And then I ended up adding whiskey tastings, craft beer tastings onto it in May, and I was just ready to pull my hair out, I think, by the end of June, until I just said, hey, you know what? I'm going to start reaching out to some of my friends who are, this is so reminiscent of 2008 to me, because I was in an industry back in 2008, and the first people that restaurants and hotels, everybody cut right away is the sommelier.
Yeah.
We're like a luxury item. So I saw all my friends just losing their jobs left and right, and it's the same thing now. But I was so great. I was so grateful that I was able to reach out to them and say, hey, you know what? Come work for me. I've got a whole bunch of events. I'm going to shuffle these off to you. I'm going to book them up as long as you've got availability. Let's go do it. And they're all on board with me. A bunch of them have stayed since June. doing the events, and we've added to the team. Now we've added cocktails. I've got some mixologists on board, some certified cicerones for craft beer, and it's just crazy. Blagica actually.
I left consult. So when Michael was a client in theory. So I have a digital consultancy called Zlato, and he was in a sense a client. So when he was watching the kids,
it was gold.
Running events was the Zlato. For those who don't know, the word Zlato means gold in Macedonian language. So he was watching the kids, and then I'd be marketing the business as him being a client. But then things got so busy, I just dropped all the clients and formally, came over to build out the marketing and partnerships side of what we do, processes, whatever else. And so I'd say late May, early June is when we formally brought new people in, and just it's been all cylinders ever since.
Yeah, it was only just the two of us, I think, except for me outsourcing a few events here and there, up until the mid-August before we started adding some help on. But we were just ready to rip our hair out. We actually did a move across the state as well.
We moved across the state in July.
So from the Southwest Michigan, which was a fun time, but we decided to move a little bit closer to family. Of course, Blagica's family being here. I think I might have actually, funny enough, might have been the person who actually brought that idea up.
You did. I was shocked.
I said, we got to get closer to some family. We're all over here all by ourselves. During the middle of a pandemic, the kids need a family by them. So do we. So yeah, I just brought that up.
But most importantly, other reason why we decided to come back to the trade area is, Steve Eiserman came back to the Red Kings. So I was watching their press conference.
For those of you watching that don't know, this is actually the second time that we've actually done a type of interview like this. The first one was actually for our the Macedonian Church festival back in August, and it's a very similar conversation. And even that conversation was great. This one's amazing. But I guess my perspective, because I remember when you guys moved, one of the first things I saw Michael post when I added him as a friend was, where can I go watch a Bears game that has a patio? And I'm like, everywhere that I know that has a patio is probably and this is before the shutdown that we're dealing with now, of course. This was, I think, week 1 or 2 of the season, so everything was pretty much open. I'm like, everywhere I can think of is either an enclosed patio that has a bunch of TVs that probably is jam-packed, or a full patio that has no TVs. So I felt bad that I couldn't suggest anything. But now everyone's getting tense. So maybe someone with a 10 might be able to drop in the comments and say, hey, I'm open during 10 season, so come on by, and I have heaters. And if that's the case, I'll join you wherever you go.
Our joke is we lived in Minneapolis for 10 months. So being Midwest people, I thought I was a tough chick. No. We lived in Minneapolis for 10 months. It is cold, but what I describe it as a dry cold. Chicago has the wind that goes through you. Yeah. Minneapolis is also cold, but it's cold temperature. But you learn there quickly. It's like you're in the minority if you don't put on some long johns and have an ugly coat.
And go outside.
Go outside.
Kick the kids outside too.
I mean, so that taught us. That's why I'm like, if anybody out there in the area has outdoor tent patios, we're all in. We just bundle up, put on a hat, and go. It just support
put the fire pit on. And just grab yourself a drink. Drink will keep you warm. So.
Yeah. I mean, I know my trick of choice is a drink and a cigar. So. And I can't buy enough of either one. So.
That's awesome.
I probably shouldn't say how much I've purchased in the last few months. Is a bad idea in case certain people watch.
You don't look like you've got any COVID pounds. We both, man. Like we're just.
It goes on. I've got at least about 10 pounds on me. Yeah, because of this. It's everybody's drinking more.
I also had it though back in November, so that helped me lose 10 pounds.
Oh really? Oh, I didn't know. Goodness.
Yeah, I had it beginning of November.
Oh my goodness!
Wow, I didn't know.
I did not have it bad though. Just the fact that all I did was lay on the floor of the basement. So I'm like, all right, anything I eat's gonna grow on or increase or decrease. So I'm like, I'm gonna drink a lot of water. So everything was water, food, bed, work, cool. But all I had was coffee. Yeah, thank God.
Wow, thank goodness. Yeah.
So to get back onto the idea of bourbons and pairings and wine and everything in the great world we call liquor and spirits. Um, I'm going to start off since I know you started Bottles Nation as almost a wine. Correct me if I'm wrong when I say it this way because I don't want to offend you. Almost like a wine tasting company that also
Oh, sure.
provided private events to corporations and so on and so forth. So I'm
Mhm.
going to hit you with the question you probably got 100 times at one event. If you had to pick one bottle of wine that everyone has to have on their wine cellar, what would it be?
Yeah.
And if you
So,
know the price off the top of your head, you can shoot that out there too.
of course. Yeah. So, well, wine cellar implies that you're so something you're going to keep for a while. And then this is something that I recommend to a lot of people, and then they're like, "Oh, wow, that's a great idea." So, buy something that's age worthy, that's going to sit in your cellar in your children's birth years.
If you have children.
Yeah, if you have children, or if you just have a special year in mind to purchase. It's such a great idea. I purchased Ornellaia. So this is an Italian super, what's known as a super Tuscan. This is a wine from Tuscany that's made with the local grape, which is called Sangiovese. And a good majority of it, they also throw some French varietals, Bordeaux varietals like Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot into the mix there. But it's just an outrageously I super love this wine. Now the price point is not everyday drinking wine. This is something that you are going to expect it to be sitting around inside your cellar. When I first purchased it, it was about $170 per bottle. I actually was looking around last night just to see current vintages, to see how much they cost. These things are like up to about 225, 240 now. So
Okay.
it's quite a pricey wine.
Do we still have it? No, do we drink it?
No, never drink it. It's
I-
gonna be able to
We
age
have
for a while.
different things he's purchased over the years. Here's the thing, Spots. Like, and everyone watching, you know, there's different jokes about what men and women buy and whatnot. You know, women buy shoes and purses. I actually buy domain names. But you know, when one thing I never questioned wine he buys, like ever. I'm like, oh, it's another shipment, or oh, it's oh, it's a free sample. Oh, look, it's 2 boxes from wine.com. Oh, look, it's a box from Minis. I never know. And so the other day, I had to do some laundry,
So
right?
it's almost like the opposite of you getting all the Amazon packages and he just nods his head.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. Yes. So the other day I went to go do laundry, and I went downstairs in the basement, like, okay, I'm like, let me just take a look. And I'm like, oh my God, I forgot. To the point where when we moved from Chicago to Southwest Michigan for the first time, we had to rent our own mini trailer for the wine. That's how much I had no idea how much wine this man had. It consumed an entire mini trailer from you all across. So yeah,
About 80 to 100 bottles, maybe something like that. Nothing
That's
crazy.
not bad. There's people
That's a lot.
probably there's probably people in this video that have double that in bourbon, so that's definitely
I
okay.
believe it.
Kudos.
Yeah. No, and you said that bottle you mentioned was how much? 220, 240?
And so nowadays, if you want to buy
Yeah.
a current vintage, about
Yeah.
a current vintage like 2016, as opposed to the ones that I bought in my kids' birth years, which were like 7-ish years earlier. It grew for about what is that, about $70 a bottle. It's
It's a
pretty
good
crazy
investment.
high.
Man.
Wait, is that the
I
wait?
mean, for how much these for how much bourbon's going, not only at stores but secondary markets, it's like
Mhm.
that 220 for majority of us that spend the money for bourbon is
Wow.
chump change. Like
Yeah, I
I'll give
believe
you a
it.
prime example. A 2020 George T. Stagg. I don't know how familiar you are with Buffalo Trace's antique collection,
Yep.
but the George T. Stagg 2020 year or 2020 edition is almost $650 on the secondary market right now,
Ooh, wow, that's
and that's hitting the stores around this time of year. So it's
oh
not
wow.
like we've been holding it for 11 months. That's something that majority of the country has had for maybe a couple weeks or a couple months, if that.
Wow, my goodness, that is just
So
crazy.
if I ever spend that money on bourbon, which I'll be honest, I usually don't buy too much at secondary. I'm usually a buy it at statement or just above. type of guy, but it's tough. But when a bottle, like for example, I bought a bottle of Camus a couple months ago because I'm just sitting at home and I wanted to buy a nice bottle, and I'm sitting home alone. I'm making steak. I'm like, you know what? I know I can't drink this with anybody, but I'm gonna have a bottle of Camus by myself, just a nice little pint, not the big, not the 750, and I'm gonna sit back, enjoy my steak, and call it a day. Because I bought myself American Wagyu too, so I'm like, okay, this is for me. This is for peace and quiet. I'm gonna turn on some football and call it a day.
There you go.
That sounds pretty epic.
A treat.
Yeah. So we know wine, but I also want to toss that same question in there for spirits. Before you jumped on, I saw a few bottles walk into the frame, and I think I noticed the wax on one of them, the black wax. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I know what that is. Yep. What is that? The rye or the bourbon?
That's the bourbon, the Kentucky Straight Bourbon, single barrel.
Nice. So with that, obviously we know wine and whatnot, but one bottle on somebody's bar top, what do you recommend? Any spirit, does not have to be bourbon, does not have to be anything. It's if someone were to come up to you and say, hey, you know what? I have this. I want to toss a bottle that I should have in my house. What are you telling them to buy?
Yeah, of course.
Actually, I want to recommend something that a good buddy of ours, Phil. Phil, if you're watching, he turned us on to this. It's a Brazilian spirit. Is it spirit or liquor?
It's spirit. Yeah.
It's called cachaça.
Wait, I just watched that episode.
Cachaça,
Somebody Feed Phil.
It's delicious. It is from Brazil. And he uses that when he makes caipirinhas. But cachaça is as soon as he introduced us to it, I'm hooked. So if anyone hasn't tried cachaça, give that a try, and I recommend that to have on your bar top.
What'd you say his name was?
Huh?
What'd you say his name was?
Phil Gomes.
Okay, I watched that Netflix. I watched a Netflix series with Somebody Feed Phil. I forgot his last name. I forgot the last name.
It's a different Phil.
It's definitely a different Phil.
Yeah, different Phil.
Like legit, right before we jumped on an hour before, when I'm getting everything ready, I had Netflix in the background, and the first thing I'm like, you know what? If I can find it, I'm buying it. But I know for a fact that cachaça, I definitely said that wrong, is you can't actually buy the actual Brazilian version. It's the American.
Let's see if we can hook you up. Keep talking.
Yeah.
This guy did an actual what's it called?
Oh, he did a harvest.
A harvest. He did a harvest.
Sugar cane.
Yeah. So.
And he helped make it as well. So.
Yeah, flat out. I'm gonna text him and you tell him.
He did the distilling and everything. So.
Go. You tell him your pick.
Yeah. So wow, it's so difficult to just pick one. I'm gonna go with two really quick here. So if I'm going with spirits, one of my faves is well, the one thing that I like is that her family had the Macedonian community really loves their cognac. But I see everybody always drinking the usual suspects.
You love the cognac so much at the wedding. How much? Hey, watching. How much cognac did you all give my husband at the wedding? Come on.
I don't remember.
Trust me, I definitely know that because as a bartender at Mac Hall, we'll probably go through 70% of what we go through at a wedding is cognac. Mm-hmm. So if we go through 3 bottles of cognac, that means no one was drinking that night.
Yeah, it's all the usual suspects: the Martel, the Cavassi, the Hennessy, which are nice cognacs, of course.
Yeah.
But I love myself a nice bottle of Pierre Ferrand. I think they're definitely my favorite cognac producer. So just to have a little bit of nice cognac is.
So you mentioned Martel, and I kind of want to hit on a question because I feel like every time I ask this question, it's always the same answer. But knowing that you're a Som, I have a feeling I finally have someone that's going to agree with me. When it comes to Martel, Blue Swift or Cordon Bleu?
Oh wow.
Cordon Bleu.
Thank you. Thank you.
There you go.
So everyone that's watching that ever told me Blue Swift is better, thank you.
Down in the Cordon Bleu. I'm a little bit more partial to Cordon Bleu because I love the Pope of Greenwich Village. But if you haven't seen that movie, rent it.
It is, you know what? Let's part of these podcast interviews also get to know people better. So when we were recording, Michael wanted me to watch this movie, The Pope of Greenwich Village, and so I watched it, and it was good. It was interesting. It had some artistic qualities to it. But the problem with that is because I love people's personalities and I pick up people's habits quickly. It's just since I've been a kid. I was walking around Chicago for no reason, just randomly saying to people, "I'm the Pope of Greenwich Village." You have to watch the movie to understand what I'm talking about. But that's my memory of the movie of making a fool of myself randomly, like I'm the Pope of Greenwich Village. You just have to watch it. You have to watch it to understand.
Great.
And my humor is very cheesy, so.
That's right.
Yeah. So let me get to the other one really quick here. So there's for everyday drinking, or even for wines that you would love to have in your collection. I already mentioned one that is in my collection, but I love Washington State red wines. The everyday drinking wines that you can get from there, I think are for if you spend $15, $16 a bottle on them, are much better than a lot of stuff you're going to buy at that price point in California. And then some of the producers,
no offense, California, but it's true.
Yeah, no offense, but it's just that because sometimes you're paying more just because it says California on the label versus Washington State. I think more people are getting to know that Washington State quality, but nonetheless, Washington State red blends are just unbelievable. Whether you get Tamarack Cellars,
that's a good one.
Their Firehouse Red.
Firehouse Red.
Of course, if you're lucky to have any Kilsada Creek. Their red wine blend is amazing, and then also if you get any of their single vineyard Cabernet Sauvignon, which usually goes for about $300 a bottle, it's fantastic stuff. Very hard to get, and I super love anything from not everything, but a lot of stuff from Washington.
Let's be real. It is the one state that surprised me where this guy in a heartbeat would move. Southside Chicago, Italian guy. He salivates when he talks about Washington and how much he would love to live there.
In Oregon, I'm just wild about the Pac Northwest.
He's wild about the Pac West. It's just funny hearing it out of your mouth.
Yeah, the Pac Northwest.
So if you moved there, you would be forced to be a Capitals fan, though. I don't think you have a choice to stay Blackhawks there.
I gotta say, like again, not to toot my own horn, but having lived in Chicago for 20 years and never defected to the Blackhawks, the stamina I had, the stubbornness that I have, I just do not think Spas is right. If we ever moved to Washington State, that you would be able to sit there and have that stamina and be pro Chicago everything in Washington. I really don't.
I don't know. I like that. Hey, did you see the new franchise from Seattle?
Where they call themselves the Kraken. Yeah, and they took the Red Wings octopus idea too.
Yeah, I like I love the logo and everything. I like the fact that Seattle's getting a team. So who knows? I might have ended up being a Seattle.
That's true. Actually, yeah, you're right. Because at that point, one's in DC, one's in actual Washington State.
Yep.
I have an answer for your cachaça, my friend. I could put it in chat. He'd give me a bunch of things to look for. If you're in the U.S., look for Lebanon and Novo Fogo for cachaça.
I have some Lebanon in the cabinet, so
I'll put it in chat.
There we go.
Yeah, be my guest.
Lebanon should be pretty easy to find.
Yeah. So you mentioned the what was it? The wine. You mentioned. You said you had two. Did you mention both? I forgot. I'm trying to blank if you mentioned your second whiskey.
Wine. What was your spirit? I said cachaça. You gave a wine. What's your spirit that we have in the house?
Oh yeah.
To have out.
Oh, I mentioned the cognac.
The cognac.
That's right. Yep. That's right.
The Pierre Ferrand is that's awesome.
I'm gonna try finding a bottle of Cordon Bleu and I'll ship it to you at that point. Now that I have someone else that likes it with me. So with that said, we know what we should have on our bar top. We know how most people drink it. What's the perfect pairing?
Depends. I am not a sommelier. I've learned a lot through osmosis. So I'm going to try to use what I keep hearing you say and start answering it, and then you finish.
Go ahead.
This is like a
everybody likes.
This is like a nice.
That was the other thing. Now that since you guys are both on, this is two totally. Technically, right now on this show, we could have three different answers.
Yeah, so what I've learned is I have learned that the standard rule of red and meat and fish and white is out the window. I've learned that quite a bit. I've also learned that there is a basic varietal that goes with quite a bit when it comes to what you're drinking. Believe it or not, a Pinot Noir, from what I've gathered in light, goes with quite a bit, both fish and with reds. So it goes across the board. Now, if I'm having fish or meat, Pinot Noir goes really well. I do know when we have our sushis, Riesling a dry Riesling goes really well with sushi, especially what is it called, Kung Fu Girl?
Kung Fu Girl.
It's called
Riesling.
Kung Fu Girl Riesling. That Riesling goes
from Washington State again.
Washington State, ding, 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 ding. That goes really well with sushi. So I no longer do the typical colors with meat or fish or chicken. That's out the window.
You're always better off pairing with sauces
than
the actual protein itself as well. So that's a big point right there. Whiskeys, you know what? When you're drinking some whiskey, I think if you can get some good cheese and crackers, if you can get yourself some smoked salmon or some salami, that's just perfect pairing right there. It just tastes really, that's amazing. Of course, if you want to have a little bit of dessert, you're having some the Chicago mix popcorn is fantastic with some of these guys.
Garrett's.
Garrett's, yeah.
There you go. Get some Garrett's with the caramel and the cheddar.
You can get the imitation stuff at Costco. No offense to the imitation brand at Costco. We buy it too. But
the one at Nino's is good.
The one in this guy. For anyone who lives in Michigan, let me just say that even before we moved to the east side full time, we visit my parents, and this guy has fallen in love with Nino Salvaggio.
It's like
the one by Partridge Creek.
Yep,
yeah, that's the one. But he just goes crazy for Nino's, and I think back in the day they had the Olive Bar. And he would visit my parents, and he would I have to go to Nino's and get something.
and dinner's like an hour away, but he comes back full from the Olive Bar.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So
espresso. We buy their chocolates. You know the single chocolates?
Yeah.
The imported ones, we buy like $30-40 at a time, and we hide them from the children and just hide them.
Because they import them from Italy. It's
that's why we have to buy all of them. There's no other chocolate in Michigan. Yes.
So I actually just saw a comment come in, and they've been asking me to do this multiple times, and every single episode. I am not shaving an episode. I'm sorry, you guys. It's not happening.
How long have you been growing it?
Actually, you know what? This is what I'll do. I'll trim my beard if whoever this is actually goes onto StreamYard.com/Facebook and activates their Facebook so we can actually see their name every time they say this. And I'll let you, if that happens, I will trim it. And I'll do it before Christmas. I will not shave it.
They want to be a keyboard warrior, but they don't want to show their face about the trimming.
I can go. I usually have the video running on my other screen, but my other screen gave out to me during work today, so I'm not using it. I gotta buy another one. So I'm pretty sure that's either Alexi or Steve, and if it's one of you, I'm not doing it. But if you change it and make your comment show up with your name on it, I'll trim it. And I'll even have my barber video it as she's doing it. And I'll post it as a
deal, you should do it. It's a good deal.
And I realize we're not logged in, so I'll have to give Spase the cachaça recommendation from the post within the group and stuff later.
Yeah, that's no problem. So my question to you, Michael, because I know you also enjoy a cigar here and there as well. I have my own answer to this, but I also know my answer is based on personal preference because I've been smoking for a few years. If you had to pair a spirit or a wine with a cigar, how would you recommend people pair something like that? Because we're not talking food at that point. We're talking a novelty, for the lack of better words.
It's got, so the number one rule is it's got to be strong. The flavor of a cigar, like we all know, I mean, it fills your mouth. It's very strong. The tobacco, it's massive. So if you don't have anything that's paired with it, that's not massive as well. If you're going to go wine, you've got to go with something that's super rich and big, like a Shiraz from Australia, a big giant Cali Zinfandel, something like that's going to work. If you want to keep on going with wine, but the dessert wines, ports and Madeiras work out perfect because the way that they're made, especially Madeiras, because they're basically like a burnt wine. So hey, perfect right there. And then, but optimally, I'm going to go with what I usually choose. So Armagnac, Cognac, that's what I usually end up with. Even though, hey, right here, bourbons really do the trick as well. I like something with a little bit of sweetness to it too, to kind of balance it, because the cigar, let's face it, there's not much sweet about it, except, well, actually you do get a little bit of sweetness off the tobacco too, but for the most part, something sweeter, like a bourbon instead of another type of a liquor, made with 51% corn, you get a little more sweetness for it. So.
Yeah. Don't mind me. I have to roll my beer, and I apologize for doing it on camera. I should have done it before we went on.
Whoops. That was shook a little bit too much, huh?
No, I always roll when it's a craft because of sediments.
Oh,
Especially when
gotcha.
it's a beer. Especially when it's a beer I never tried because I don't know how much sediments are at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So this is my first time trying this one. It's actually a blueberry cream ale by
wow.
Sheboygan Brewing Company.
Oh, Sheboygan.
We've been to Sheboygan.
Yeah.
Sheboygan is really nice.
It is nice.
But then after you go to Sheboygan, and then you live in Minneapolis for 10 months, you come back, and remember I mentioned before, I pick up personality traits of other people. I still catch myself saying, "How are ya?" Yeah, I know.
I say that to everyone.
Like, but the accent, the Minnesota accent with the O's and "How are ya?" That pops up.
Yeah. Someone's and it's probably the same person that's telling me to shave. They're having a Saga City right now, which is I believe part of the Foursquare brand.
There you go.
Distillery. So.
Well, I was told about their rum that I have to get some of that. So.
Yeah, and I'm surprised. I'm very surprised how often it's hitting local stores like a Meyer or a Kroger, like things that you usually don't expect it. Like I was talking to someone today. They're like they found a GTS at Kroger. I'm like, which one? I want to go get it because I've never seen a Kroger sell it for overstatement. But that's also with the jokes that we have running in the group that we're in. It's anytime we find a very unique or unicorn bottle that we can never find, we say we got it from Walgreens because it's never going to happen at a Kroger or a Meyer.
Yeah.
And if it does, you're very lucky.
What's that thing you've gone to? That beer thing? That
which one? The one.
Three Floyds. Wait.
Which one?
Oh, the one at Three Floyds.
What's it called?
Oh my goodness! It's the
it's an annual beer festival, Three Floyds in Indiana, and it's like an all day. You buy
heavy metal bands galore. They usually get about 60,000 people to attend it. It's pure madness. And you with your ticket, which costs about $180, but you get a 4-pack of bombers of this barrel aged stout. That's what.
But then everybody resells them.
Actually, speaking of stouts, what do you think of those Bourbon Counties by Goose Island? Have you tried any?
I've been collecting them for years. They're fantastic. They are my favorite BCBS for sure. So Bourbon County Barrel Stout for you people who don't know that. But this is as far as that goes, it's the height of it. But the one thing I noticed over the years was, and you've probably seen it too, to where everybody was going wacko about them, selling them on the second market, etc. Prices going skyrocketing and stuff. But now nobody's buying them anymore. It's like a big stout glut. The bubble has burst. You can buy
that one. I will admit, I actually did find that Kroger.
Yeah. So you can just find them now anywhere. The Founders CBS Canadian Breakfast Stout, you can get anytime you want. That used to be so scarce on the shelves, you would never find it.
I mean, the way you would talk about getting the stouts, I mean, it was like trying to get a PS5.
People were waiting in lines like up to 2 years ago to get these things.
If you want a PS5, I know someone's selling one for $1,000 right now.
Is that Dolly?
I'll take 2.
There you go. So, are you still drinking the same bourbon, or did you pull something different?
I might have a second. Well, I may have another one, but a different style.
There you go.
There you go.
So, Blagica, I actually do have to ask you, or both of you, because I think you both put it on the rocks. Obviously, it's a personal question, or it's a personal preference.
Yeah.
Do you think neat versus rocks? And first of all, before I say that, anyone that's going to comment on this post that you should not be drinking bourbon neat, or you should be drinking bourbon this way or that way or another way, guess what? You're not the one that spent the money to get it. People are
Right.
going to
That is
enjoy
number
it.
one.
People are going to enjoy it the way they want to enjoy it.
Mhm.
The way I make a Cosmo compared to what another mixologist makes a Cosmo with, totally different ballgame. Like, for example, like we kind of talked about it earlier, and you talked about your cocktail classes. I sent out a list of things that I suggest people have at home because I already hosted one of my first classes, and they're like, "Oh, well, your class was great, but what do you recommend we always have at home?" And I'm like, I could tell you what I have, or you could tell your clients what you have or what you recommend. But when it's all said and done, um, I'm not gonna force someone to buy $100 bottle or a $50 bottle if it's not
Yeah.
in their price range or if it's not something they're gonna enjoy. And
Yeah.
I think Roger probably just said it the best way: drink at the way you love it.
Yep.
And I think that
And
I started drinking bourbon, quite honestly with work. So
mhm,
I was in Texas. I was at South by Southwest. I used to go every year for my job. And a big part of South by Southwest, if anyone's gone or hasn't gone, is the workshops are great, but the biggest part of South by Southwest is you're answering your phone now. He's Michael's answering. This is real life. So we have a wine
that's
event
okay.
coming up, and we couldn't get the delivery to the people, so we actually had to use DoorDash in Alabama to get someone's wine to them with DoorDash because different providers will not ship to Alabama. That's the real
Yeah,
life.
and
So
it's
anyway,
because of like, just like Michigan, we can't certain websites
yeah,
ship to certain states because we're technically a controlled state.
The name for this again? I made
yeah.
a few words
It
for
gets
tonight.
I
Yeah,
do think that the alcohol laws, and I don't want to get too
yeah,
deep in politics, but the alcohol
no,
laws that vary by state are just
Okay. Yeah, I
the
didn't know that
takeaway is
they
the
had a unit
alcohol
number. They
delivery
didn't tell
laws
me.
and
So,
alcohol laws in the country are
is
very
there a name
archaic,
on the
in my
buzzer
opinion,
or anything?
with what the
right,
consumer can get and how they can get it. That's all I was
Uh,
going to say. Just a one out
yeah.
there. But
So
I think that women
okay.
shy away from drinking bourbon
All
or
right. Well, I'm
whiskey
sorry to
because they
send
think
you out. You
it's
might as well just take it
it's a
back then.
manly only thing. I was in Texas. I was at South by
Thanks.
Southwest. We're at a
Okay.
bar, and and my girlfriend was drinking bourbon, and he and I had gone to Whiskey Fest in Chicago years back, and I actually met the third or fourth generation Bullet bourbon woman who was running Bullet at the time. There it is. And she really piqued my interest in bourbon. So net, when I was at the bar at the Drexel Hotel in Austin, a girlfriend of mine was drinking bourbon, and I never had bourbon before straight. And I think I associated
excuse me.
brown liquor with, quite honestly, growing up with cognac. And I just didn't see it as something that I should sip because we do it for celebratory things. So she put ice in my bourbon, and I nursed it and had a business meeting, and I liked it. And ever since then, I have, by myself, I get bourbon, and I think the ice cube really makes, I don't know, it just makes it taste better. And I think that the water melting in the bourbon over time just makes it pleasant. I don't know any other best
So
way to describe it.
I will admit something to both of you right now. I've probably been drinking bourbon for about 2 3 years, and those 2 to 3 years, unless it's a cocktail, I have not put ice in my pour,
You what?
and I have not put ice in my drink because, and the only reason why is just like I said earlier, it's a personal preference.
Yeah.
You're gonna drink what you drink the way you want to drink it because you paid for it, and that's how it goes. If you don't drink it that way, it just does not work that way. So, and the reason I ask that is one, because of one of the questions I'm about to ask, but two, just to show that in this call right now, like I can tell you, I am a high proof bourbon and rye person. If it's under 115 proof, right now I'll enjoy it, but I'm not going to enjoy it as much as everything that I've been drinking for the last 3 months. And I don't like, for example, like even with my wines, I'm a dry wine type of guy. So for me to sway away from those two parallels and for me to drink it in a way that I potentially don't want to drink it, again, personal preference.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
just like Roger said, drink it at the way you love it because you're the one that paid for it. And it's almost funny to me how many comments or concerns I hear from other people like, "Oh my God, you're putting a big cube in a $200 bottle?" Yeah, if I want to, I can because guess what? My
You pay for
cash.
it. Yeah, that's
Or
yeah,
well, I'll rephrase it a non-political way. My preference.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. I'm in total agreement, especially with wine. I've had so many people ask me, "Oh, what do you think about boxed wine? What do you think about when ladies ask for an ice cube for their wine, etc." All kinds of questions like that. What do you think about people who drink it out of coffee mugs? I'm like, you know what? People are drinking wine, so I'm happy with that. That's what makes me happy. You drink what you like. People sometimes people are going to like these things, and then of course with the cube or without the cube, I like it anyway. If I go to somebody's house and here's some whiskey, you got any ice cubes? No. Cool, I'll drink it anyway. I'm not going to
Because
turn it
at
down.
that point, one, it's free. Two, it's okay.
That's
Because at least
exactly.
you asked. So
Yeah.
I kind of like because you mentioned something, and I think Blagis is gonna laugh when I say this too. When I work at Mac Hall, which for those of you that don't know is the Macedonian Cultural Center in Sterling Heights, where that's my home bar when I'm a bartender. Um, a lot of Macedonians, for example, are used to, and I'm sure Blagica, they're when you go to a bar in Macedonia, they showcase a lot, especially when they see a U.S. dollar. So
Yeah.
to them, if you're supposed to pour a drink like this, in Macedonia they pour it like this, and they like do the whole, hey, guess what? I just did the whole up and down thing. I forgot what it's actually called. And so now all those old people that saw that once think that's how you make a spritzer. You can pour it as low or as high you want for the club soda, and it still tastes the same.
Yeah, it's not going to affect it at all.
That's hilarious.
In the back in the back of your head, you're like, you know what? I'm gonna do it this way just so I can be cool. Like the amount of times I've heard that is unreal. But so to kind of segue into the question that I wanted to ask both of you, if you could have a glass of wine or a pour with anybody in the world, and I'll mention it because this is always the backup question to my question, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
So I mentioned earlier that my background is in technology and doing just web marketing things and whatnot, and I've always been interested in gadgets. My dad, still knows how to work on a car in his sleep, and I worked at Motorola, and I think that's probably what led to our son's name being Nikola Tesla. So we have a son whose middle name is Tesla. So I've been watching Nikola Tesla documentaries. It would be Nikola Tesla because he, the guy literally invented the technology we're using right now to talk to each other. That was him. Whether it's X-rays, Wi-Fi, cellular. The way that Thomas Edison just like walked all over the guy. I'm fascinated by Tesla, so I would want to sit with him and just ask him all the questions.
People still are, yeah.
I compare him a lot to like Leonardo da Vinci and his inventions. You like that? You like how I twisted too historically? You see that?
Very good comparison.
So that's who it would be for me as Tesla.
Nice.
Yeah. So wow, it's now that you threw the dead part in there, it's very difficult for me because I had already been a little bit prepped up on to do a live person here. But you know what? I'm going to stick with my answer of who I was going to say before. I love a character. Keanu Reeves is just an awesome dude. This guy has given away so much money to people that people don't even know how much money or who he's giving it to because he's always keeping it on the DL. He's not letting anybody know. This is a guy who lived not inside of a house at all for like 18 years in hotels and stuff like that. He gives away money to people on the set. He gives away money to people on the streets. He buys people Harley Davidsons. In the movies he does, he's such
He
an
is
intriguing.
obsessed with John Wick.
Well, I mean,
Every John
who
Wick.
isn't, right?
Actually, I love John Wick.
Those are great movies.
His
Yeah.
dog, that poor dog. I love John Wick. So yeah, he's whenever any John Wick versions on the world stops and we watch
The Matrix, everything. So yeah, I would love to get a chance to talk with him. He seems like such an interesting, awesome dude.
He's a book publisher. Did you know that?
I see. You find out even more stuff about the guy. It's just
he's
insane.
a book publisher, and he's publishing books about some really interesting, unique topics about artists.
Well, that's awesome. He just seems like that type of guy that you find out more and more stuff. Like the onion, you just keep on peeling the layers back. It's
and he's still very good looking, I must say. He just ages so well.
He's a good looking man too.
He's a good looking man.
Yeah. So most people would probably sit there and be like, "Look at those two good looking guys talking to each other."
There you go.
But I had so many answers. I was like, imagine sharing some whiskey with Jesus Christ. That would be a cool one too. I mean, my goodness. I'd say
make some wine.
I'd say you make some wine. You know, I know that. But here, try this whiskey, man. You gotta try this stuff. Here, let me know what you think.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my answer probably changes every time I ask this
Who would it
question.
be for you, Sparkler?
Yeah.
I have three answers.
Okay.
Number one, Steve Yzerman, Gordie Howe, Wayne Gretzky, and it's the same reason why. It's their I want to know their upbringing into the NHL.
Huh. Interesting.
Number two, I would say you guys. Not only for the time that you gave me today, but the knowledge that I can grab off of both of you as well. And my third one would be Elmer Thiele. Who, for those of you that don't know, it's the Elmer Thiele bourbon that you're getting now is named after him. And the reason for that is the knowledge and the ideas that he had in the world of bourbon. Obviously, in that same realm, I'd want to have a pour without Young from Four Roses, or, for example, one of my earlier episodes, I had Christian Huber from Starlight on. So it's all of these people that I just named for my third answer. If they're on the same table, if it's 3 or 4 separate conversations, it's cool. But bourbon right now is my number one love. And I did kick cognac to the curb. I like it more than I like it more than cognac now. But I will admit my cognac collection is just as big as my bourbon. Well, no, it's not. I lied. My cognac collection is like 5 bottles. My bourbon's like God knows how many. I don't want to count, and I probably don't have time to count tonight because God knows what else is down there that I haven't seen in months that I'm probably gonna want to open. But so one of my final questions that I ask everyone that jumps on, what's next?
That is actually a really good question. So it's so funny that you're talking to us tonight about this stuff, Spasa, because we feel like we can breathe a bit. What I mean is, for the month of December, we have about 160 events for this month.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And we just finished ordering for the month. And what that means is, now we can make sure that everyone can get their packages and have a wonderful holiday session. But of course, we start in January,
which is the hard part.
Yeah, we can make sure that I gotta be. God loves this time of year. But FedEx and UPS, man, there's only so much you can control with them shipping things. So
I'll tell you right now. I shipped with USPS on Monday, and my packages are supposed to be 2 days are still on the truck.
Yeah,
and they're supposed to have them tomorrow.
And I have so much empathy for the drivers, and I just hope that people have a lot of empathy and grace for your delivery driver this holiday season, because it's nuts. So part of my job with the company is to think that long-term piece. This virtual thing is great, but we are focusing on virtual events right now. But quite honestly, the ethos of the company and the reason, Bottles Nation, it was formed in Miami. It was also formed with our friends Steve and Angela. We were having dinner. We were having tacos. Remember that taco night?
Yeah.
We were having tacos in South Beach, and we were talking about Windy City Wine Guy and riffing. Bottles Nation is all about, we feel that in our world, wherever you live, if you sit with people and share a bottle of something, and it doesn't have to be alcohol. If you sit with people and share a bottle and talk it out and get together, the world could just be so much better. You know, we know that sounds Pollyanna, but we truly believe that. We truly believe in family and food. And that's what Bottles Nation is. It's
I
celebrating
mean,
food.
even during a time like this.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. See? That's
so
what this
like
is.
and I'm sure you guys are getting this a lot this month too. They're like, well, I usually have a Friendsgiving in December, but I don't have a way to see my friends. And I'm sure you guys will agree with me. I like these virtual classes that a lot of people are doing now,
Yeah,
especially you guys, with the amount of knowledge that you guys have, with the amount of knowledge that I could potentially bring to the table, with the classes that I just brought on to the table. Um, I'm telling you, like, even if it's you grabbing 5 or 6 friends, be like, hey, you know what? Let's call Bottles Nation or let's call the Booze Nest and let's get a class together. Because guess what?
Yeah.
These classes that you're potentially doing or these tastings that we're doing, or both doing, I should say, is a way for you to hang out with friends that you maybe haven't seen.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
We've got tomorrow night. We have game night with for some friends of ours. Like,
yeah, like,
we're not doing a tasting. It's just a game night over Zoom.
yeah, and like even like my friends, for example, I'm supposed to head over there tomorrow. I'm like, you know what? How many are gonna be there? He's like, I don't know, like 5, 6. I'm like, okay, I'll swing by. Well, I was gonna go anyways, but I'm gonna come by. I'm gonna bring some samples because these are all people in the last few months that I've talked to a lot about bourbon or rye or spirits in general. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna bring you a couple samples each. You don't have to. Please don't drink them tonight because if we're playing poker, if we're having fun, I don't want that to be something that you drink all in one night. I want you to experience the idea of different, like you can. Because correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, you probably know yourself. From going from a 90 proof bourbon or a 90 proof vodka, whatever it is, to 130, 140 proof, and doing that 2 or 3 times, you don't want to do that in one night if you're a rook.
No. Wow. That's
Un-
just too
un-
much booze right there.
unless you want to hug a porcelain throne for the next 12 hours.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, because the
that's
big difference, just in case people out there don't understand the proof system. I mean, if you cut that in half, you got 130 proof bottle. You've got 65% alcohol inside that bottle. I mean, going from a 90, which is at 45 proof, to 65, that's a
Yeah.
big difference right there.
Like it's probably a different aspect or a different ball game when you're talking to people like maybe like myself or you or Blagica because we're in the industry. We deal with it every day. Like
Mhm.
it's almost part of our job. Well, I don't want to call it a job for me, but it's part of your job, for example, to understand the idea of, you know what, okay, I understand I have tolerance. I understand I have this, I have that, but it just doesn't work that way all the time. You don't want to force yourself to drink something just
you know,
because someone else.
even I think people as the years have gone on, I think even people are trained to look whether it's bourbon, spirits, or even on a wine bottle to see the percent alcohol. So we're going to continue doing these in person, but we're also, we're looking towards the future because this company started with in person. So spring, summer, if there's a vaccine, God willing, if people get it. If people still want to do virtual, we'll do that. But we also have teams across the country, and we kind of see ourselves as an Airbnb in a way, or Uber, matching people who are certified and out of work to be able to have a function and have income. So we're going to be
Yeah.
able to match people in person across the
Or
country.
even when they go back to work, they
yeah,
can use it as a
they can
side
still
gig.
do
So
it. So we're finding
And
that we love doing it. It's starting to catapult into being a job resource for many people in the industry. And lastly, we're finally going to launch our newsletter every single week. Michael's going to give out tips on his wine picks of that week. For years, people have asked us to start a wine club. So we're looking into that, a Bottles Nation wine club to get picks and still continue the process and enjoying the wine and the experience every month. So we're working on those different pieces too to differentiate what we do in 2021.
yeah,
that's
just letting
awesome.
more people know about what we're all about. It's not all about business either. Like you had mentioned, just getting people to realize not even drinking, like you said, even just drinking booze. Somebody just wants to bring.
We do mocktails. We send people mocktails all the time.
Yeah, but if somebody wants to bring a 7-Up with them and sit down with somebody you don't even know, have a talk. We're so divided in this country.
Yeah.
But the one thing that people, you hate this and you hate that. Oh, you don't like this and you like that. You know what?
But you might both like this.
And the other thing too is at the core, we're all people who love our friends. We love our families.
Mm-hmm.
We love our country. And we love our food and we love our drink. I mean, those 5 factors right there is what makes us all the same. We may have a little bit of core disbeliefs, and that's where we've become so polarized in those aspects.
Yeah.
Settle down on those 5 aspects and talk with somebody. Even sports too. Lots of us love sports. Talk to somebody.
Sorry, the Blackhawks fans are the worst. You guys are so nasty.
It's okay.
Hey, you know what? We can all talk.
No, but it's disrespectful.
Once the Little Caesars Arena allows fans again, I'm gonna buy us both tickets. That way we can go see a game and wear separate.
Wait,
jerseys.
no, stop it. It gets better. Chick-eye. Hold on. So that means wait, Macedonian. So when we decided to move here, it was a pandemic, and I said to him, "I'm buying tickets. I'm buying season tickets because I've wanted season tickets forever." And he went, and I'm like, "I'm buying." I'm like, I saved and saved and saved, and we have 2 tickets, season tickets. There, haven't used them yet because we can't go in, but they're up, but they're by the Labatt's bar, like down from the Labatt's bar.
You're by the lower mezzanine, right in the
No,
middle.
I don't know. It's not. They're not like on the ice, but they're up.
Oh no, I mean I'm above the mezzanine.
Yes.
The Labatt's Club is right by center ice.
Yes, and so that's with 2 tickets. So once they're back in season, man, he can take you to a game.
There you go. So I want to thank you guys for jumping on. Thank everyone that joined.
Thank you,
no,
everyone.
Seriously, thanks for inviting us. It's so much fun, Lasse. You guys are killing it. I mean, the Booze Nest is killing it. Now you're breaking off and doing events. Like you're like the wine savant, and he's like the bourbon savant.
And especially Michael, now that I know you like bourbon, I'm definitely going to toss you in a few groups that I know will enjoy your company. I'll probably message you about them to give you some fair warnings, but I'm just kidding. But I definitely want to thank you guys for coming on. And for those of you that have been watching, or those that you are watching the recast, thank you so much for joining us. For more information about Bottles Nation, please visit them at www.bottlesnation.com. Michael, I don't know, is there any other way they can reach Bottles Nation if they wanted to?
Yeah, that's the best way right there.
Twitter, Insta, Facebook, Bottles Nation.
Everything is at Bottles Nation, so yeah.
There you go. Any lowercase, uppercase, hash, or dashes on there, or was that? What's the bottom?
No.
Dash?
Of course, on Instagram and Twitter, it's at Bottles Nation, one word.
Yeah.
And then on Facebook, it's 2 words, Bottles Nation.
Beautiful. So again, thank you guys for coming. For everyone that watched, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you guys. Join us, I believe, a week from today, for a very special episode of Bottle Banter with the Booze Nest. Maybe there's a giveaway, maybe there's not. We'll see, because it is a week before Christmas. So if there is, there is. There might be, there might not be.
Wow.
Please join us.
That's a great name, by the way. Bottle Banter is genius. That's a great name.
So just so you know, and for those of you that don't know, I ran a contest on the page that I run called, or for those of you that are not watching from Michigan Breakfast Club, I did run a contest on Michigan Breakfast Club and said, please submit your request for a name, because I originally called it Booze Nest Fridays, but then I realized 40% of our episodes are not happening on a Friday, and we go live just like we are tonight. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I have to change this name. So we had about 10, 15 submissions, because I think everyone else was nervous or didn't want to submit what they wanted to say. But Justin Vasilevsky, thank you again for giving this name. I will see you tomorrow, so I'm going to bring you some samples. But again, thank you from the bottom of my heart, guys, for joining. And again, join us again on December 18th, probably around 7 p.m. May or may not be a giveaway happening. So tag your friends on this post. That way they know. Blagica, Michael, thank you again. We'll
Thank
see
you.
everybody
It
else
was so
next
much
week.
fun. Good to see you. I'm glad you're feeling better, man.
Thank
wow,
you.
wow.
See you guys. Cheers.
Okay,
Happy